Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Ken here, and I have been putting off going live on this topic for several days, and I didn't want to wait any longer. I turned 50 last week. 50. Golly gee. If you're watching this and you've turned 50 and you remember what that was like the day it happened, the first time you sat and thought, crap, I'm 50 years old, half a century. Go into the chat and just let me know your thoughts on that. Just what you felt, what your feelings were. It was an unbelievable experience for me. There's so much I'm thankful for. There is so much I want to share with you right now about what I've learned in my first 50 years. There's so many things that I wish I would have done differently, but I wouldn't have known to do them differently unless I'd done them. Hey, Jeremy, good to see you, brother. But there's some things that I've done dreadfully wrong in my first 50 years. And there's some things I wish I could have done better. Some people I've let down, some people that I've made happy. And I've been thinking about it a lot. And I wanted to, first of all, I need to just humbly say thank you. Between all the various social media platforms, there were thousands and thousands of people that said happy birthday. And hey, James, good to see you, my man. I got to give you a call today. It was just so humbling that there were, like I said, thousands and thousands of people that said thank you or said happy birthday. I'm saying thank you. I tried to figure out, how can I get to everybody? How can I say thank you to everybody? How can I, this obviously is the way, to just be with you here for a few minutes and chat and reminisce and share some thoughts. So the first thing I want to talk to everybody about is a book that I read in the last week. I've read it 3 times now. The book is called Halftime by Bob Buford. If somebody's watching this and you can put a link to that book on Amazon in the chat, I'd really appreciate it. It's called Halftime by Bob Buford. And essentially, it's what you think it is. It's a book that gives people guidance and advice on what 50 means, what halftime means. But more importantly, it's very inspiring, and it's really got me. Oh, thank you, Lisa. I appreciate that. It's really gotten me to seriously realize about the next half, what I want to do, who I want to be. And I like to think that it's the time in your life where you get to reflect. You're qualified to reflect on a lot of things. And as you guys know, in my life, it's been unbelievable. I spent 14 years in investigative policing. I started in the military police, then I got into drug investigations. Then I did some undercover drug work. I was a police interrogator. I was on a SWAT team. And then at 30, I found out I was going to become a dad. So I started my first business. I had a great mentor. It was a mortgage company. Then I got into network marketing. I made millions in network marketing, and I owned a network marketing company. I was through a major freaking lawsuit. Another network marketing company that was worried that I was going to pillage all their leaders sued us. And I learned a lot about lawsuits. And the most important thing I've ever learned in a lawsuit is don't do it. As angry as you are, don't do it, because the only people that really win in lawsuits are lawyers. And then I learned the perils of having dreams that are too big, of scaling too fast, and taking on things that I wasn't qualified to take on. I started a publishing company in 2010. And when it was a little publishing company based in Toronto, Canada, thanks, Sahid, appreciate that. It was doing amazing, and we were helping a lot of authors. And then I had this crazy idea to build a social media platform. And I started raising capital from other investors. And I was so blinded by what I was doing that I moved the company to Las Vegas. And it started a 4-year period when I was rarely home. I was living in Las Vegas for a while, then in Austin, Texas. I met a lot of people. I learned an incredible amount, but the company failed, and authors got hurt when the company failed. And there's just so much. I mean, I think that was probably my biggest learning curve. I think that was, thank you to everybody who's saying happy birthday here as well. Auckland and Sally and Dom. Appreciate you guys. Jeremy, thanks for posting the book, brother. So what ended up happening, and the lesson I learned from the publishing company, there's a couple lessons I learned. First and foremost, here's the official. I don't know if I've ever publicly explained this, but here's what happened. When the company was young, I got this idea of building this social media platform that was called Go Read. It was for authors and readers, but it was way beyond what I really understood what to do. And so I have a quick study, right? I'll learn fast, and I'm tenacious as I'll get out, and I'll figure it out. But it got to the point where in order to build a world caliber social platform, we ended up hiring like 40 programmers. We raised like $16 million. And because of that, I ended up only owning about 30%, 20% of the company. And so there were some really, really wealthy bankers. There was a banker and an oil guy, I won't name any names, from Amarillo, Texas, that ended up owning 60% of the company. And at one point, I hired a CFO, and he actually, listen, I'll tell you this story. This CFO came to me about 6 months that he was with us. And he was like a big league CFO who knew the space. And he'd been in the publishing industry before, and he really, fancied himself a smart man. Like, in other words, he wasn't shy about telling me how to do things and what to do. Well, we had an author who had bought a high ticket program from us. And this author was a minister. And sadly, that minister ended up going to jail for a couple of years because he had an affair with a young girl, a 19-year-old girl. And I got to know this guy after he came out of jail, after he had repented 3 or 4 years later. And God teaches us to give everybody a chance, right? Well, I in spite of what he did, I believed that he had repented, and that I went and talked to one of his ministers, and I did the deal with him. I was helping him to publish a book to get his restart, to build an online Christian men's ministry. Well, this CFO found out about it and called me. I was the CEO. He called me into his office, and he says, we have to give this guy's money back. There's no way we can work with this guy. And I politely told the CFO that I'd already done the research, and I believed the man was on a new path and that he had repented, and I wanted to give him a chance. And he turned against me. Like that day, that CFO turned against me. And I didn't find out how badly he turned against me until a bit later, but he absolutely wanted to get rid of this author and give his money back, the whole 9 yards. And I wouldn't do it. So about 8 weeks later, the CFO, I was on a holiday, and the CFO told me that I had to come to a board meeting on the phone. And it was the two biggest investors. It was at the time a guy that I thought was my best friend in the world. And it was the CFO, and they literally fired me. They said, you can be an advisor to the company, but we're going to run it without you. We don't like the way you're making decisions. Very ironic that it was so quickly after I defended that pastor, that author. And I found out later, after they fired me, they made the CFO the CEO. And here's the craziest part. The way that they dealt with me, there's a story to this, so stick with me here. This was probably the biggest learning lesson that I learned here at the halftime. Within days of them firing me, and what they did is they liquidated my stock. So they created a whole new class of stock. So my stock in the company, which at one point was worth millions and owned 70% of the company, was worth less than 1% of the company. And then days after they did that and ratified everything, they had board votes on it and everything, they made the CFO the CEO of the company. So you know what happened there. And then here's the craziest part. 1 year later, because here's what they told me. They said, we didn't like that you were trying to do all this digital marketing stuff and helping authors online with digital marketing. We think that's what's hurting the company. And so we want you to stop doing all that. We're going to cut all that out. We're going to be a traditional publisher. And I said, you're never going to win as a traditional publisher. That's a recipe for disaster. And sure enough, about a year later, they filed bankruptcy. I was already gone. I'd been gone for a full year and I had no control over the company. But listen to this. You want to talk about how bad business can get. And I'll tell you the lesson I learned in a second from this. After they bankrupted the company, my lawyers, I hired lawyers, obviously, because everybody was blaming me. All these lawyers that lost their books. All these lawyers the authors that lost their books, all the authors that got hurt, they all started blaming me. And if you go Google this, you'll see there's still all kinds of crap on the internet that it was my fault that I hurt all the authors. But what really happened is they paid me for the year after they fired me as a consultant on the condition that I didn't go public with anything. And they bankrupted the company a year later. And when they bankrupted the company, everybody started blaming me. And I'd been gone for a year. What I found out happened, my lawyers started investigating, and there was a bunch of authors that wanted to launch a lawsuit. And they were trying to figure out who to sue. And they were like coming to my lawyers and saying, we're suing Ken. And the lawyers were like, well, you really don't have any grounds to, because they fired him a year ago. He wasn't involved, and they liquidated his stock. But they started looking into it, and the lawyers for the company and those investors, they never ratified the stock deal intentionally. So even though we had all these board votes, and it's in the minutes that says that my stock was liquidated to zero, if you go look at the papers of the company, it says I owned 58% of it. I was the majority owner. Even though even if that's the case, they lied to me, right? They basically set me up to take the fall. And I learned so much from that experience. That's probably the biggest thing. So, from there, I came back home. It was a blessing that it happened, because I'd been away from home from my family for almost 3 years. But it was a blessing that it happened. And that put me onto the path that I'm on today, which is freaking amazing. I still teach people how to write amazing books, but instead of publishing them, I refer them to traditional publishers. And I've got 6 amazing traditional publishers who all love me. They knew what was happening. And so I ended up better off there. Here's the other thing. Before I started my publishing company, I was making millions of dollars in network marketing and in my businesses. When I was running my publishing company, I was the CEO. So I was only making about $100,000 a year. It was a really tough 6 years. Luckily, I had money saved and everything. But when they did that, they pulled that on me. I got back to digital marketing and helping authors, and now my business and my family's making millions. So it was fascinating. So what did I learn from this life? One of the biggest lessons that I learned comes from affiliate marketing, which many of you guys know I make a lot of money in affiliate marketing today. I learned from the best. Robbie Blanchard, who basically introduced me to the world of affiliate marketing and ClickBank, he always says, and I've adopted this term in my own community, but he says slow is fast. And I've realized that is probably the biggest piece of advice that I could give to any entrepreneur starting out today. You have to be exuberant. You have to have like this vision. If you want to succeed in your life, you've got to be willing to outwork everybody. You've got to be willing to work harder. You've got to be willing to work smarter. You've got to be willing to learn faster. You've got to confront your fears. You've got to do all that stuff. But slow is fast. And the advice, what I've done is I've written down some guiding philosophies that I'm going to live the rest of my life by. And on my list, the very first thing, my number one guiding philosophy is, listen, plain and simple. Don't do anything unless everybody wins and people truly get helped. That's my new mission statement. Don't do anything unless everybody wins and people truly get help. Slow is fast. So you can have the biggest dreams in the world, but don't sacrifice the integrity of your dreams to go faster. Take your time with your dreams if they mean that much to you. See, what happened to me is I believed in my dream so much and I wanted to happen so fast. I started raising money instead of just slowly going at it, because, you know, hindsight's 2020, right? So if I would have just stayed on the path that I was on, learned all these digital marketing skills and just launched that idea now, I could have funded the whole thing myself and it would have saved all that trouble. It's just so important to take your time and find. Here's another thing that's really important. Mentors. Have mentors in your life. Have mentors in your life. But here's the challenge that you're going to have with mentors. You're going to find people who say they want to be mentors and you truly believe they're mentors in your life, but the reason they're in your life and the reason they're wanting to give you advice, it's because of the financial gain they get from you. And that's happened to me. I've had mentors in my life who wanted to help me be better and do everything better, but they had a significant financial gain from that relationship. And the minute that financial gain went away, guess what happened? And there was all kinds of reasons for it. There always are. But the reason is never the reason, which brings me to that fact. The reason, this is like another one on my list here. And people in my community have heard this, have heard me say this 100 times. Thanks, Mel Banfield. The reason is never the reason. And I don't care what anybody says. Listen, at the end of the day, I have to live with me. I'm going to put my head down every day for the rest of time for the next 50 years. And I have this one saving grace. Every day, I'm going to put my head down and I'm going to say to myself, I tried my best to do my best. I tried to inspire others. I wanted to help. I tried to help other people. I'm getting t-shirts from my business made right now that says, my business is helping you. And that's kind of my mission statement from now on. Listen, here's the reality. I think that it's really hard to find a mentor that can really help you unless there is some type of financial relationship. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. I have hundreds of students that I help today. I hate the word students because these people are like successful in their lives. They're just learning a specific thing from me, mostly digital marketing. But I have a ton of students and I am a mentor to them. But that relationship started for financial reasons, right? They paid me to teach them a skill. And some of them paid me like a lot of money to teach them a skill. But our one-on-one coaching, I'll give you here's the reality. Our one-on-one coaching relationship that I have with my top students lasts for 6 months. That's the deal terms. But I've never finished one of them in 6 months. I stick with them until they're succeeding, until they're making money, until their businesses are growing, way beyond the terms of the agreement. Now, if you're one of those people and you're watching this right now, don't expect that because I've got people that are helping to keep me on track today that are critical of me over that. But the point of it is, if you're going to succeed faster if you have mentors in your life, there's no doubt about it. But you're going to get hurt by those mentors. You just are. You just got to know that right up front. You have to go into that relationship, and if you got to pay the mentor, then pay them. Just probably the smartest moves I've made in my life were the mentors that I paid for their time. That's how I got hooked up with Nick Boothman, and Nick has stuck with me through thick and thin, and he's probably one of the people that I appreciate most for our relationship. But it's a relationship where we really need each other. So he's guided me. He's given me tons of advice. And now I've had other mentors where it sure felt like mentorship and it sure felt sincere. But the minute the financial deal disappeared, so too did the relationship. So I guess the advice that I'm giving myself, which obviously through virtue of this conversation we're having right now, the advice I'm giving you as well is go get real mentors. You got to, like what I did is I said, okay, where do I want to go in the next 10 years? And what I'm doing right now is I launched a real estate investment business. I have some really dear friends of mine, 4 men actually, that live in my hometown that trusted me in my last company and they lost some money. And I'm still working with my lawyers to figure out how to pay them back without paying them back. Cause I got a whole bunch of lawyers out there that are authors out there that want to sue me and want me to take responsibility. It's a real weird legal mess that I still pay lawyers a lot of money to fix. But the reality is, I have new businesses that I'm starting. I'm starting a real estate investment company. If anybody has any interest in investing in real estate, send me a message. But the biggest lesson I've learned in the first 50 years, one of the biggest lessons is mentorship. Get mentors in your life. There is going to be a financial connection between you and the mentor, and you're going to get hurt by your mentors. I'm going to tell you that right up front. You're going to. But go into that realizing that. Don't expect it. Don't look for it. But when it happens, stay humble. Don't get angry and just say thank you. And always focus on the things you learn in your experiences, good, bad, or ugly. This journey we're on is just one of learning. What are the things you learned in your experiences, good, bad, or ugly? Multiple streams of income. I have this crazy desire to have all these different streams of income in my life. And I've realized this is another major decision for me at halftime. I realize I have to be very careful about multiple streams of income. And I can't focus on more than one thing at one time. So I've got to make sure that I've got those systems in place. You're going to see in my life this year a lot of systems put in place. Some pretty serious investments in infrastructure and other people and offices and things so that systems can be there, so that the businesses can grow and I can focus on what I focus on, which is not running a business. I suck at that. Helping people is what I want to focus on for the rest of my life. So yeah, I would say, I'm starting to mumble a little bit here, but let me just be very clear. If you don't have mentors in your life now, if you don't have like real tangible goals for things that you want to learn, then make those goals, decide on those things, and go find people to help you. And if you have to pay them for that help, do that. Get into that relationship. Take as much out of that relationship as you possibly can. But don't lose it when that mentor hurts you. Don't lose it when that relationship dissolves. Sydney says, agreed. When you think your coaches have become friends and then they disappear, it's disappointing. But as long as they did what they promised, they've accepted. I shouldn't expect more. What's frustrating is when you've paid for coaching and after it's paid for. Yeah, there's some little issues in there, Sydney. But you still can. If you're paying a coach, it's hard, right? Because if the coaches you want to pay are the people that you feel like there's really a connection with you, and you want that friendship. But just put yourself in their shoes, because you're going to have your own massive coaching business one day, and it's all about time management. But thank you for that comment. That's beautiful. If you watch this later and you have comments, I'm going to follow this for a while and see what comes out of this, because I think that some major points have been made here today. For those that are just tuning in late, I turned 50 last week. I started this video off. It was going to be a quick little video just to say thank you for the thousands and thousands of well wishes that I've gotten, birthday wishes. I mean, it's been incredible. And then I also promised that I would share some thoughts on my biggest takeaways. I read the book Halftime by Bob Buford, which you can look in the comments. There's several people who put a link to the book. You should buy it. If you're coming up on 50, if you're under 50 years old, buy that book and read it. Read it several times. Turning Success into Significance. It's called Halftime. It's amazing. It's about turning 50 or whatever you think halftime is. It's unbelievable. So I've decided that I'm going to spend the rest of my life helping people at all costs. I'm going to really focusing on the things that I'm really good at, and bringing in partners, employees, managers, whatever you want to call it, to do the things that I'm not so good at, and then trusting them to do the things. I'm going to continue to bring mentors into my life without any expectation of what that relationship will look like after they deliver the thing. Because if you didn't hear that story, go back. There's a couple really amazing stories that I told today. First time I've ever told them. And that's pretty well it. You can look for me to be a lot more active on social media in the future. You can look for me to spend a lot more of my time reviewing the mistakes that I've made in my life, in hopes of saving people. No, Nick, you'll have to go back and watch the beginning of the video. I definitely feel like I've been helping people without a doubt for years. But my point was, now in the second half of my life, if I can't see directly that a relationship is a win-win relationship and that I'm truly helping somebody, I'm just not going to take that relationship on. I was talking earlier about mentors. I've had some mentors in my life in the past years that have promised to help me and become better and do better and all these betters. And as soon as the financial aspect of the relationship was gone, so too was the relationship. I've had mentors that didn't like my verbosity. Is that a word? Verbosity? And if you guys are on my email list, you'll see I write very, very specifically on my emails. I cite money that I make and do a whole bunch of things. And I've had mentors that don't like that. I've had relationships crumble because of it. But I'm just at a point right now where I'm just going to try my best to do my best. And that's all there is to it. And I'm really excited about the next half. There's a lot of amazing things happening right now. So anyway, I hope you got something out of this. I truly want to thank you for the birthday wishes. And I really look forward to the next 50 years and doing as much as I can for as many as I can. I hope you guys all have an amazing Sunday.